Hello and welcome. I'm Sarah, and today's video is part of an interview I did with Dr. László Boros, who's a world expert in deuteronomics, or the study of deuterium, on human health and the effect of deuterium in other biological systems. I received an email from Dr. Boros, and it was about a particular heart function test that he'd participated in, and the data showed that he had the heart health of somebody in their mid-20s, and Dr. Boros is 62. So what we're going to talk about is what he actually does for his personal lifestyle in order to get this result, because he practices what he preaches about deuterium. And he'll also walk you through why studying cardiac function is an extremely good marker for overall health, age, and metabolic function. Welcome back to the channel, Dr. Boros, and you've got very interesting information to talk about regarding your heart and deuteronomics. So do you want to introduce that to people?
Yeah, so it's really interesting that we know that the heart muscle is practically an ATP synthase measuring tool, simply because our muscle in our heart is a modified smooth muscle. It's somewhere between the skeletal muscle and the smooth muscle, and it performs regular contractions, about 72 per minute, just to talk about the normal ranges. And it is a very unique organ in the sense that the repolarization of those heart muscle cells depends on ATP synthase, and actually the deuterium content of water in the heart muscle is in a linear and in a very deep slope kind of relationship with ATP synthase activity. And for that matter, in a 2-minute measurement period, you can measure this process by about 140 times. That's how many times your heart would contract. And based on the slope, how you can see the pressure building in a contracting heart, which you can measure with this special pulsometer that actually measures the dilation and the pressure change in your capillaries based on muscle contractions. The slope of this curve, what we call is an inotropic slope, meaning that how deep is that slope, you can tell how efficiently your heart muscle is contracting and how stable are these contractions, meaning that how a short regenerative time in a second or so, or somewhat less than a second, can regenerate sufficient ATP so the next contraction is just as strong as the previous one with the same slope and so on. You can actually have a very clear idea of how your heart muscle is working and what your metabolic age is, for that matter, that drives or helps your heart muscle contractions to be strong and efficient with the necessary ejection fraction, which is about 70 milliliter per heartbeat, because that will dilate your capillaries. And running a study, surprisingly, I was in the less than 25 years old age group, and I'm 62 now, meaning that it seems, and knock on wood, it's my heart is working, or my heart function, based on these slopes and these curves. It seems that, again, I believe that this is because of my deuterium depleting carnivore lifestyle, meaning that I mostly eat natural fat or natural source animal meat, fat, interiors, and so on, with very little vegetables occasionally. But it seems that it shows on my heart function, and my heart measurements or contractions are somehow matching that of the 25 years old. And hopefully it stays that way. Again, it's a heart reader or reading the heart approach, which can be purchased. I don't want to advertise here anything, so it's not for advertisement, but practically you can have access to this technology and measure your heartbeats and the strength of your heartbeat, which is very clearly an ATP synthase related function, and also for that matter a deuteronomics or indirect deuterium measuring approach, especially in combination with MRI. We believe that this could be a very efficient, very simple, very cheap assessment tool of biology or your biological age or your adaptation to your food, or just to determine how clean is your food as far as deuterium and how efficiently you can regulate deuterium to help your muscle functions and heart contractions.
Yeah, because when we start talking about cardiovascular, because people may know or not know what you do, because last time you were on the podcast, we know that you eat one meal a day and you just drink, a small amount. I think you said a coffee in the morning. But what about exercise? Because what do you do for exercise, and will that influence the results you got from the cardiac data?
Yeah, so I do 31 push-ups every day, every morning. Before my coffee. It's not more, not less. It's flat back. Those are the kind of the right type of doing push-ups. I don't go to gyms, or I don't do anything other than doing push-ups, 31 of them each day. I could do more, but I don't want to spend more time on this. But it takes about 45 seconds to do this activity every day. But I do this every day, meaning that it's a regular activity. And before or after, my blood pressure is usually in the 130/70 with a 68 beats per minute range. So I'm in this in this range every time when I do these push-ups. I'm very used to those. And when I go to my office, I walk 7 floors up. I don't use elevators, meaning that I just walk up the stairs and walk down the stairs. I haven't used an elevator in the last, I would say, 3 or 4 months, unless I'm carrying something that is heavier than 16 kilograms. So, and this is just practically, I don't want, to get stuck in the hallway at a turn simply because I'm carrying something too big. So practically, this is a very simple way of exercising. I'm very used to, and I like this kind of like somewhat hungry, but I know I'm gonna eat at the end of the day. The food source has to be clearly very natural, in the sense that those are grass-fed animal products, interiors, and we just cooked a huge lamb from my friend this weekend. It's about 20 kilograms of meat, and it's gonna serve me for a few days definitely. And so we don't make this a big deal. We just eat the natural grass-fed animal source, 31 push-ups a day, don't use elevators, coffee in the morning, that's sufficient. Like if I'm thirsty, I'm working outside, then I would drink some deuterium depleted water in the 105 ppm range, but that's not, I have to be thirsty, and I only drink as much as needed to cure my thirst. I don't drink deuterium depleted water just to deplete deuterium, because the best way to deplete deuterium is not to drink any. And even 5 ppm water has some deuterium. So it's practically, for us, it's better to produce water, metabolic water in mitochondria and recycle that through circulation with a high antidiuretic hormone, circulating antidiuretic hormone level. So I actually retain this from or reabsorb water, metabolic water from my primary filtrate in my kidneys, which we produce about 180 liters a day. And for that matter, I think, after all, when you do these diagnostics procedures, you see some very surprising data. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because also, do you use any supplements? Because I'm just ruling out other factors, because people make claims about supplements or certain things being heart healthy, whereas so far what you do is you eat a carnivore diet, you fast, you limit fluid intake, you do sort of, I'd call it HIIT, or sort of a short burst of high intense exercise, and you walk up and down stairs a lot. So the next thing that, because people might say, oh, well, maybe he takes supplements and that's why he has the heart of a 25-year-old, according to this particular data set.
No, I don't take any supplements. And the reason for that is I don't know their source. I don't know where they are from. I don't need them. The animals that I eat, they took a lot of supplements from the natural Hungarian grassland, meaning that they eat about 200-300 plant types in a fauna. They eat plenty of supplements for me, and they process those into their, especially fat soluble vitamins and so on. So I wouldn't take any supplements, no matter who is offering what. If I go to exhibits or if I go to conferences and there are these supplement companies that eat this and that because it's good for this and that, I just leave practically, and I just laugh at them, because you don't need anything as far as supplements are concerned if you eat the right diet, because it has everything that you need. Again, my diet is very diverse in the sense that once a week, maybe I eat a hot pepper with my meal. Once a week, maybe once a month, I may eat a tomato if I feel like it, but it's very rare that I would. It has to look good. I have to eat it with my meal. Never dressing, never anything that I don't know the source. I have to know the source of the tomatoes. I have to get it from my friend's garden, which is next to the garage, and I know it's never been sprayed with anything, simply because it just grows on its own. And that's practically the type of approach that I use. It's mostly a pure meat-based diet, with occasionally eating some plants, never fruits. Those do not interest me, and I don't need those, and no supplements whatsoever.
What, have you ever smoked or drunk alcohol? Because I'm just going through all of the other things that I know has potential ramifications on the heart.
I stopped drinking alcohol in 2008. I haven't had any alcohol since 2008. I stopped smoking in 2011, the day I took my citizenship oath, the US citizenship oath, because I couldn't stop smoking. I could put down alcohol very easily, but I couldn't stop smoking. So I told myself, when I become American citizen, I'm not going to smoke ever again. And this is how I'm sticking to it. And that helped, for that matter. And it's just practically a very clear, clean approach to what you would do as a natural carnivore ketogenic person, meaning that if there is recreation cannabis products in Los Angeles, primarily in California, then I would join in. But it's practically just a irregular habit, for that matter. So it's practically just a style. I try to stay clean as much as possible from any processed food, in any processed supplement type of product. I do have to know the source of what the plants are from, where the plants are from, how they look like, how they smell like, and how they taste. For that matter, I kind of developed a sense of being able to tell the water's deuterium content based on taste or smoothity or viscosity, but it cannot be carbonated or processed in any other way, and it has to be close to room temperature. So you can develop a lot of skills that goes back to Deuteronomics, or our best way to say this, caveman time, or what animals can do is they can still taste deuterium, or they can measure by smell and probably visually as well. They can see deuterium and proton ratios in nutrients and water sources and smelling those. They believe that migrating birds use these deuterium tunnels to guide them to the place where the geographical location where they want to get to. And this is we believe is the part of the Deutenome, or animal or human Deutenome, that is so sensitive to small changes in deuterium levels to even to be able to orient and guide and navigate themselves through continents and find their nesting place and find their feeding places. So I would say this is a very interesting journey of the last 12 years after I stopped drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. It's a very interesting kind of health-related issue to see where you are. And I have to tell you a sad story in the sense that when I go to a reunion of my high school classmates, and we are 62 years old now, 62, 63, depending on where we were born. And I almost like I have a very bad feeling for some of my old classmates simply because of their health status and the way they look, the way how much they weigh, what kind of diseases they are battling, and how many of them show up. We're gonna have a reunion in a week, and 3 of my old classmates who were coming the last time, they already notified us that they are not coming because they are battling some chronic diseases. And I don't consider us too old to be able to go to these reunions, like full number, but it's every year there's almost like 1 or 2 fallouts. And I feel sad about this situation, because if you look around in the whole country, and especially in Europe, especially in the US, in the Western societies, now obesity, chronic diseases are over the 50 years old age group is like over 70% that they are battling these diseases, and it shouldn't be that way. And I can tell you the best way to stay away from those diseases is to eat as much as you need, meaning that 350 grams or maybe 400 grams of meat, with occasionally with very little vegetables if you feel like. It's sufficient for your full nutrition, but the animal, the source, has to be the perfect one, in the sense that it has to be grass-fed animals, in seasonal, local, and so on. And you have to eat the fat parts, the interiors, the meat, and the liver, and the kidneys, and the hearts, and the lungs, and so on. So we make these stews, and they have everything, the bones also cooked in. So or we just eat raw if the animal is kind of desirable And we have these beefsteak tartares, if you heard about those. Those are raw gray cow sirloin steak, double ground with a little bit of egg yolk. And I mean, that's really a delicacy.
Oh yeah, no, I hardly ever talk about what I do or eat, but I eat raw things a lot, meat and stuff. But the reason I went and asked so many questions about this heart and this data is because what I was getting at is that even if people have lived a life that they regret now from smoking or drinking or eating wrong, you're never too old to make a change, and your body has an amazing capacity to heal. And as we know, the heart and the brain are two organs that, you know, they give our age away. So even if someone's watching or listening, it's never too late to take on board how important deuterium is. And because yes, it's very confusing these days, what should I do? I sometimes say to people, just do one thing that's really important, like deuterium, and do it perfectly. And this is what your story is saying, that, you know, you take the deuterium depletion, I think, out of everyone I know, the most seriously, but then you have this data to show it was all worth it. And I think, again, I know what you mean about the school reunions where you just can't say things to people, and the more you know about biology, the more you worry about your friends, and there comes a point where they don't even understand anymore what I'm trying to explain to them. But I think what you've just said it gives a lot of people the hope of, it is worth doing it, I will get results, I can sort of reverse a very important aging marker, which is heart function. So I think I just found that sort of a very important piece of information, which is why I asked so many questions and particularly wanted you to bring it up. I want to thank my sponsor, Lightwater Scientific, who helped me deliver free, valuable information to you and also allow me to have great guests on this channel. Lightwater Scientific produce the purest and most deuterium-depleted water in the world. Depleting or lowering your deuterium has numerous health benefits, from better metabolic health, more energy, greater resilience, less brain fog, increased physical performance, enhanced healing, and healthier mitochondria. Deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen, also known as heavy water, because it's bigger and heavier than regular hydrogen. Even though deuterium makes up only 0.02% of hydrogen, it's found everywhere. Deuterium is a burden to your body because it interferes with the intricate chemical reactions that occur by slowing them down. Deuterium is kryptonite to your mitochondria, and we need healthy mitochondria to produce energy. There's over 60 years of scientific research on the negative effects of too much deuterium on health, and also the positive benefits of lowering deuterium in the body. Lightwater deuterium-depleted water is 100% safe and non-toxic. In fact, it's the closest in structure to the metabolic water that your mitochondria produce. Lightwater deuterium-depleted water comes in 5 or 10 parts per million glass or plastic bottles, so level up your health by leveling down your deuterium today. The purchase link is in the show notes, and use code Dr. Sarah for a discount off your order.
Yeah, the heart is the best way of measuring your metabolic health, simply because the heart muscle has to contract in a minute, one after another. So in a 2 minutes, relatively short time, you can measure the slopes, you can measure the consistencies, you can measure a lot of things. And those are ATP synthase related mechanisms. If there's any defect or if there's any metabolic insufficiency in your body, it's going to show up in your heart function almost immediately. Why? Because it does only one thing, and that is practically to contract and relax. You can't do this with a skeletal muscle. You have to do an exercise, actively involved in an exercise to measure this very rapidly. And apparently you don't want to argue with your old classmates because you go there to meet them. But if this comes up and they ask me how come I still weigh 72 kilograms and I was 70 when I was in high school, I can still put on my prom suits, and they are asking like, what are you doing? What's your trick? And I just tell them, listen, I do nothing. It's practically, I actually do probably much less than you do for your health. But you have to kind of learn that if you eat the Western diet, if you eat the refined food, if you eat the American diet for that matter, you're going to develop the American diseases. And that's obesity, diabetes, cancer, unfortunately, chronic disease processes. And as long as you do that, you're actually walking into a dead-end road. Once you change your diet, once you understand that your diet determines your health and how much you eat and what you eat, then once you learn this, then you start turn around and you start walking out of this dead-end road. But the problem is you have to walk as much out as you walked in, meaning that it's a short decision, but it's a long process to actually change your body the way back it was, like who knows how many years ago. And the way I usually describe is that back in 2018 or 17, when I was giving a talk, the Nourish Realm talk, I had a big skin discoloration on my face, and everybody can see that video. That disappeared in about a year and a half in the way of being deuterium depleting, meaning that you're gonna see changes in your body without medical intervention. Takes time. Clearly, it's not happening overnight. It takes time, but surely if you learn how to eat, what to eat, and why, and it's because of Deuteronomics reasons and causes, then you can see as you turn around, that's how your metabolism will turn around, and that's how your diseases have to turn around. So practically, this is just everything comes with you. It's just practically what direction, what route, what decisions you make for your health, not through supplements. Again, I don't give medical advice because I'm a researcher and a teacher, but from my own experience, from my own knowledge, from my own publications, peer-reviewed work, and convincing editors and reviewers is much harder than, it's easier, unfortunately, than convincing my classmates, simply because sugar, these refined food items are so addictive that, stopping like alcohol or smoking is much easier than stopping your food habits. And again, that would be, again, a long conversation why food habits are so hard to break, but practically this is how we do this. And now we are teaching firefighters in Seattle. We just had a camp, a Deuteronomics camp in Hungary with many attendants, and we talked to one of the deputy fire chiefs in Seattle because he asked me what to do with the firefighters who are actually getting obese and diabetics and so on because of their disrupted sleep cycle and because of their life and food that they eat. So likely from November, we're going to have a Deuteronomics course for emergency workers of how to preserve their health through nutrition and food and lifestyle, even though their work and their working conditions are very demanding occasionally. So it's getting there, and hopefully we can help people with this information. And this is a great new development that I wanted to share with you guys.
Oh, yes. No, I've been looking forward to this because I think the key take home here is that now data has been published in a very high impact journal on a par to Science and Nature to show that deuterium and Deuteronomics is now being taken very seriously as a subject in medicine, and it's no longer some left field subject. So that closes the arguments now on lots of things about people trying to say, oh, eating grains is healthy and all of that. But I think it's a lot more than that now, because because we have deuterium in us naturally. When you want to say do an MRI of a person, you don't need to add dyes or anything like that, like you do with other diagnostics. You can just look at the person alive as they are, and you can see the deuterium, I'm just simplifying it, in them. And I think the power of that kind of diagnostic, where you don't have to collect blood and treat samples and add dyes, it is the most powerful, because you're not making artifacts. So that's why I think it's so important. And also, like you said, this is just the beginning, and it'll explode into a huge area, hopefully.
Yeah, I think the dispute is over because it's not our data, but we explained data generated by others without knowing that this data is generated, and they ran into some challenges and questions that we posed and we answered. There are still questions to be answered, yet I think the argument, the fundamental argument of, is deuterium really significant in preserving health? Is deuterium really a biologically adaptive, inorganic, stable isotope with significant kinetic isotope effects in living organisms that you can see by experiments, by looking at Deutenome measurements, and do how to link that with health and health related or disease related issues. It's just a matter of further details, but the fundamental argument here is that, is deuterium important? Does it have a role in health management and strength and longevity and living a full life? I think that argument is pretty much settled.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I brought up supplements, because I don't like saying things against other people, but there are loads of websites and influencers with millions of followers, and all they do is promote different supplement concoctions for anti-aging, whereas I've learned that sometimes things, it's easier to say no than it is to say yes. And to me, as the way I think, the deuterium is unarguable with, and that's why the whole I know I used to be interested in supplements a long time ago, and when you just see that there's a much better way, yet for whatever reason people just seem to never mention deuterium on these anti-aging channels ever. And I'm not sure if they don't want to because it's going to spoil their narrative and their identity, or whether they actually don't even know, whether it's ignorance or deliberately ignoring the deuterium. And I think that happens in the medical field as well. And I never know the answer. Is someone ignorant, or are they ignoring it on purpose?
Yeah, it's a huge business for that matter. You just have to kind of give people the notion that they haven't eaten, supplemented, drank, put on their skin, inhaled enough of that stuff, and they're just gonna keep buying those because simply they think they are half full for any reason or many reasons, that they are like kind of misled in the sense that supplements help anything. You just need to buy a medical textbook, internal medicine, and you can see the regulatory processes of how your body regulate. And biochemistry and physiology textbooks, they tell you how your body regulates certain things. It's not based on supplementation or practically withdrawing those. It's practically a regulatory process through the food or from the food that you eat. But the food has to be the right one. It has to be a grass-fed animal carnivore type of food approach or food consumption that can provide you all the supplements you need, because those supplements are already part of that very well and very easy to digest and absorb molecule by molecule component from your GI tract, and you can actually use those to build your cells and to perform very important energy producing mechanisms. Supplements are not designed and they are not helping the process. They are practically overflowing the physiological regulatory mechanisms, and your body don't usually know what to do with.
This has been a very interesting conversation, and thank you very much for your time doing it.
Sure.
In the second part of the interview, which I'll upload later, Dr. Boros will walk you through his recent publication in a very prestigious journal, which has now put Deuteronomics, or the study of deuterium, on the map when it comes to science, health, and medicine. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this useful. You can reach out to Dr. Boros because he does do consultations, and his link is in the description. I've also got a new quantum biology course, which is called Quantum Basics, but it's actually not just the theory, but also how to put quantum practices into your daily life. And it's got some beginner protocols as well as some level 2 protocols on things like red light, cold thermogenesis, the timing of when you should see the sun, food, and then a few supplements which can be helpful from a quantum perspective. And the link to this course is in the description. I'll also be uploading a video very soon about skincare through a quantum lens, just because people have asked about this, and I generally don't want to really talk about myself on this channel. I'd rather present to you information and guests who can educate us on very important aspects of science, especially quantum biology and emerging fields of physics. But I think it's also nice to be able to do things which reach a wider audience, because skincare is something that people are interested in. And also I have many friends who are dermatologists, so there's a bit of a debate about the sun and the skin, and there's also what I do. It doesn't mean it's what you have to do, it's just what I've found has been helpful and beneficial for me. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more videos on quantum health.